Hi, dreamers. Let me ask you something. Do you want to create connections that are deeper than the surface? Do you want to build relationships that are authentic, real, and strong? Well, if you're ready to elevate your relationships, then you've come to the right place because today, I'm sharing with you building emotional intimacy, like Barbie. And trust me, this is the kind of lesson that will change everything. Now picture this. Barbie doesn't just have friends, she has deep connections. She doesn't just build relationships, she builds emotional intimacy, that sacred bond that goes beyond appearances, beyond the surface level. You know the kind of relationship I'm talking about. The one where you can be your true self, no masks, no pretenses. The one where both you and the other person are seen for who you truly are. That's emotional intimacy, and it's not just about being close physically. It's about being close at the heart and mind. You see, dreamer, emotional intimacy starts with you. You can't build deep connections if you're not willing to show up and be vulnerable. Barbie doesn't hide who she is. She's not afraid to be herself, flaws and all. She understands that in order to form deep emotional connections with others, she has to first be authentic with herself. Authenticity is the foundation of true intimacy. You can't build a real relationship if you're pretending to be someone you're not. Barbie doesn't put on a show for anyone. She embraces who she is, and that's why people are drawn to her. But here's where most people go wrong. They think emotional intimacy is about always being perfect or saying the right things. Let me tell you something. Dreamer emotional intimacy is built on honesty and vulnerability, not perfection. Barbie doesn't try to hide her struggles, her doubts, or her imperfections. She shares them openly with those she cares about, knowing that vulnerability is the key to real connection. Are you ready to let down your guard and be vulnerable? Because this is where the magic happens. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's strength. Barbie knows that when she shows up as her true self, even with all her quirks, insecurities, and flaws, that's when she builds the deepest and most meaningful relationships. Vulnerability builds trust, and trust is the foundation of emotional intimacy. If you want to experience deep connection with others, you must first trust yourself enough to open up and be vulnerable. But there's more to emotional intimacy than just being open about yourself. It's also about creating a space where the other person feels safe to do the same. Barbie isn't just about sharing her own story, she's also a great listener. You can't build emotional intimacy if you don't listen. True intimacy requires empathy. Barbie doesn't just hear what people say, she feels what they're saying. She listens with her heart, not just her ears. When you listen to someone deeply, you're telling them you matter. Your feelings are important. I see you. So, dreamer, how are you showing up in your relationships? Are you fully present? Are you truly listening? Because if you're not, you're missing the key ingredient to emotional intimacy. Listening creates a safe space, a space where trust can flourish and where both people feel seen and understood. But let's talk about something else for a moment. Boundaries. Yes, I'm talking about them. Barbie knows that building emotional intimacy doesn't mean pouring your heart out to everyone you meet. It means knowing who to trust and when to open up. Healthy boundaries are crucial to intimacy. Barbie has the wisdom to protect herself while still being open to others. She knows that not everyone deserves to see her at her most vulnerable. But when she trusts someone, she shares herself fully. You need to do the same. This isn't about putting up walls. It's about creating a sacred space for your most precious relationships to grow. You are allowed to have boundaries. You are allowed to protect your emotional energy. And when you do, you'll find that the people who truly value you will respect those boundaries. And that's when intimacy can deepen. Here's a secret that Barbie knows. Emotional intimacy is a two-way street. It's not just about sharing your heart and your soul with others. It's also about allowing others to share with you. You have to open up and receive. Emotional intimacy is a balance of giving and receiving. If you're constantly pouring your heart out but never allowing others to do the same, that's not intimacy, that's one-sided. Barbie knows that relationships are about give and take. She makes sure that she creates space for others to be vulnerable, too. If you truly want to connect with someone, you must be willing to give them the space to be vulnerable as well. And you need to allow yourself to receive what they share, without judgment, with compassion and openness. This is where the real depth of connection happens, when both people feel safe enough to be their true selves. But emotional intimacy isn't just about what you say, it's also about how you make the other person feel. Barbie doesn't just speak words of love, she shows them. She creates emotional intimacy through her actions. She makes people feel seen, heard, and loved by showing up for them, supporting them, and being there in times of need. It's not just about talking about your emotions, it's about acting on them. So, dreamer, let me ask you, how are you showing up for others? Are you the kind of person who creates emotional intimacy by being there when it counts? Are you someone who shows up, who listens, who cares deeply? If not, it's time to step it up. Real emotional intimacy requires action, not just words. Barbie is known for her unwavering support for those she loves. She's not just there in the good times, but in the tough moments, too. That's the mark of a truly intimate connection. Here's the thing. Emotional intimacy is what makes your relationships unbreakable. It's what holds everything together when life gets hard. When the world is falling apart, when challenges arise, it's the emotional bond that holds strong. Barbie's relationships are built on this foundation, and that's why she has the kind of unshakable bonds that last. Let me tell you this, dreamer. You deserve those kinds of relationships. You deserve connections that are real, deep, and meaningful. But you have to be willing to do the work. You have to be willing to show up fully, be vulnerable, listen with empathy, set boundaries, and take action. It's not easy, but nothing worth having ever is. So, how do you want to show up in your relationships? Do you want to create real emotional intimacy like Barbie? Are you ready to build relationships that are based on trust, authenticity, vulnerability, and empathy? Because if you are, the time to start is now. You have the power to create the relationships you've always dreamed of. And when you build emotional intimacy, everything in your life, your career, your friendships, your love life will thrive. Dreamer, the world needs more people like you, people who aren't afraid to be vulnerable, to listen, to love deeply, and to create lasting connections. Barbie didn't get to where she is by hiding behind walls. She built emotional intimacy, one relationship at a time. And so can you. Now go out there and start creating the kind of connections that will change your life. Because emotional intimacy, it's not just a dream, it's your reality. And it all starts with you. You've got this.